Hey guys, here is the background for the discussion board to kind of help you out with what's going on. You're answering this question, okay? How is Lewis's speech a reflection of our current situation? Obviously, the current situation is the virus going around, okay? And how it connects. Let's talk about that for a second. This is from 1939. It's called Learning in the Time of War. It's actually a pretty long speech. It was a sermon that Lewis gave on a Sunday. The Oxford Dons, it's another name for the professors, they used to take turns giving sermons in the campus churches. Oxford, they all have their own campus churches. And this was given in a chapel in 1939. And it was a response to the young men being frustrated because they were basically quarantined. They weren't allowed to leave and go to war yet. And they were kind of chomping at the bit, really wanting to go. And Lewis's main point here is that your job right now is to learn. Your job right now is to be educated, not to go to war, not to react, not to cause panic. So let's look at this a little bit. I'm going to talk about more about the highlights. I'm not going to read this to you. You're capable of reading and annotating. Okay. You can even copy and paste this and put it into a doc and annotate it if you need to. You don't have to, but you can. So let's look at this. Note, remember our book, Out of the Silent Planet, was published in 1938. England enters World War II in 1939. As we progress, I'll do some more video chats and we'll talk about Lewis's time in World War I and why he was so against jumping into war without considering the ramifications of it first. But let's look at this. So Lewis says here, the learned life then is for some a duty. Okay, so he's talking about this idea that you guys probably feel right now that it's your duty. It's not something you're enjoying maybe at the moment, but it's something now you have to do. You have to do this online learning. It says, at the moment, it looks like as if it were your duty. I'm well aware that there may seem to be an almost comic discrepancy between the high issues meaning the war at the time, the coronavirus right now, okay, we have been considering, and the immediate task you may be set to. Okay, so he's saying there's a problem here. You're seeing the panic in the world. You're seeing the bigger issues, people getting sick, people going to war, that kind of stuff. And you're comparing it to the fact that you have to study English class or you have to do a math problem and it's frustrating you. Okay, so let's roll on here. I do ask that you read it. I'm not going to read it all to you right now again, but here we go. Here's kind of his thesis here. And it says, do not let your nerves and emotions lead you into thinking your present predicament more abnormal than it really is. And he says, okay, so before you say this is completely unprecedented times and no one's ever gone through this before, stop and think. Because like for us, the Spanish flu in 1918, that was an epidemic. The plague, that was an epidemic. Okay, so we've had constant epidemics throughout the world. So he's saying don't think yourself special here. It's happened before. He says it may be useful to mention the 3 mental exercises which may serve as defenses against the 3 enemies which war raises up against the scholar. And I want you again to think of war as in our present predicament at the moment. Okay, the first enemy is excitement. Okay, this idea that we get overexcited, and by being overexcited, we don't focus on what we need to focus on. Okay, you need to read the explanations, but I'm going to move on here. The second one is frustration. Okay, and the third here is fear. So what I'm asking you to do is to look at his explanations and to the best of your ability, reflect back on this, okay? How is Lewis's speech a reflection of our current situation? So I want you to pull pieces of it, pull evidence from this and write a reflection. I'm not saying how long it needs to be, but more than a sentence.